Hey everyone, it's Arcandis Gaming. Thank you for tuning in to another video. Today's video is pretty special because we were finally able to get to 187 expeditions with our Cooldown Juggernaut build. It pretty much carried us from 151 to 187. So if you were looking for a fun burst build to get you to that point or past that point, then look no further. But again, this is a cooldown Juggernaut build, so our damage is pretty much based off Juggernaut and trying to get as many Juggernaut procs and spam as much as we can. With the help of Mark of Impurity to increase the damage, to Wailing Arrows to inflict ailments, to Tracker's Reach and Juggernaut to pull everything in, and then Sovereign Shout to buff ourselves and stun the enemies. And I'll show you how all that combos in when we go into the abilities. But right now we are only level 80. I'm not sure how everyone's getting level 90. I don't know if it's like an offline thing where they can mess with the character and things like that. But this build is online. I don't know if that makes a difference. So if you don't have an offline character and want to see something online, then you can make this character. Or if you want to test it off online, you can do that as well. Because typically, to increase the damage of our Juggernaut, you want to go more absorption through Force Shield and maybe some all resist. I don't know if material damage affects it. I was told it does, but you can get percent damage and things like that to increase the damage. But other than that, yeah, that's what we're going. We're going to be going more crit and crit hit damage more so than tankiness. So we are a little bit squishy, but as you'll see, we're going to be doing a good amount of damage, and we're able to get this far. So once everyone takes a look at the build and tweaks it and fine tunes it, and when I fine tune it and optimize it a little bit more, hopefully we can have a little bit more survivability, be tankier, and deal the damage we're doing now. So again, we're going to be going into the abilities, modifiers, passives, stats, and attributes, and then the items, and then of course I'll put timestamps in the description below so you can check that out. So now let's get into our abilities. So for Wings of Ishmir, we have a Berserker's Onslaught to increase our rage generation, of course. We have Stunning Apparatus to buff for each enemy hit on landing. And since we're going to be pulling all these enemies in, we're going to be buffing ourselves to the maximum. I believe the max stacks is 5. So we're going to be getting an instant 5 stack from that. Gratitude turns Spite. We're going to be increasing the chance to inflict our stasis. And this is doing stasis. I'll explain in the itemization part of the video why this is inflicting stasis, and of course the passive, why stasis is so important. Relentless Pursuit, so instead of cooldown, we're going to be using stamina so we can get as many leaps out there as quick as possible. And of course Twisting Harbinger for the vortex effect to pull everything in. For Sovereign Shout, we have Hold the Line to of course grant all resistance to ourselves. And I believe it stacks up to 10. So while we're pulling everything in, once we pull everything, we shout, and we get up to 150% resistance score. I believe it stacks up to 10, yeah. So that's good that we have that. Rallying Cry to increase the health globes generation, so we can pick that up. Stun Chance, when you jump into things, you want to go ahead and shout, not only to get the buffs, but to stun them for a little bit, so you have time to get your Juggernaut off before they all hit you at once, because we are a little bit squishier than normal. Since we're going more crit and crit hit damage. To Rise Again is going to restore stamina points so we can keep using our leap. A Princeps Lead, it just increases our crit chance just a little bit. We want as much crit as we can to do more damage. And then Hostile Inspiration, it's increasing the effectiveness by all the buffs. I'm not sure what percent it does that, but it's going to be increasing our resistance and our crit chance, excuse me. So that's why we win all those. For Wailing Arrows, this ability, honestly, really, we just use to inflict the stasis ailment. So we want to try to get as much ailments chance score as we can. And we want to do things that do more damage, or do more ticks of damage, so it has more chance to inflict that stasis. Because our stasis chance is pretty low. So we want to be hitting them as much as possible with these abilities to inflict that stasis. Anyway, I'll go over the modifiers. We have Fluid Movement for cooldown. Force Bow, increased damage. Irate Smiting, a little bit of more damage. Shattering Arrowheads, which is important for the ailment chance. Call the Furch Archers. This is good as well because it summons 2 extra little circles of damage. Not only does it increase the range, but increases the ticks of the area of the group to inflict that stasis, if that makes sense. Increases critical chance for yourself and allies around you. I'm not sure how much crit this gives. I don't even think this works, honestly. One second. Increases the critical chance of the ability through Eagle Eye, and then Broadhead for damage. But Fight from the Bitings, I don't even think this works, honestly. So we have 59% crit. It doesn't work, but I want to think it works, so I have it on anyway. I'm not sure if it's just a bug or whatever, but I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. But anyway, moving on to Tracker's Reach, we have Preserving Momentum, Arresting Claw to inflict the stasis. This is really important to have. And then Retracting Chain, Zealous Smite for the stun chance as well, Rapid Propulsion, and then Unrelenting Hunt to pull all enemies in every direction. So not only if there's a pesky range minion, you can pull that in from afar, and as well as pull everything in and stun them from closer range. But as you see, we're trying to stun the enemy, inflict them with the stasis to combo into the abilities and the passives, which we'll go over in a second. And then the last ability we have is Mark of Impurity. So basically we're going big game hunting, weight of culpability, a sentence accepted to increase the extra damage that we do on them, and then guilt by association. Mark of Impurity spreads to surrounding enemies on the death of the target. So let's say, because we're not going to be able to mark every single enemy in that pack, it'll take forever, and we want to keep up with our 7-second Juggernaut. So we mark a couple, jump in there, pull them all in, blow them up. Whatever is still living will have the mark now, so it's going to be easier to kill them next time without having to remark them and things like that. And then Fate of the Unholy, which is really good. This combos well with the passives and everything else, because once an enemy is killed while under the effect of Mark of Impurity, it explodes and deals base damage based on the target's max health. So if you can, try to mark the tankier things. If not, target the weaker things, and those weaker things are going to explode, dealing even more damage to the tankier things. And yeah, you can do a bunch of damage with this, and I'll show you in a second once we get into the passives. Okay, so going into the passives, the first 3 important things to get, and this is a must-have for this cooldown build. It's not too far to get either. Each beginner tree has Quick Draw. So in the Sentinel, Soldier, and the Scholar tree, it's basically 10% decreased cooldown for all skills. So that's 30% cooldown right off the bat. You only need 2 points to put into each of these. So really important to have, must have for the build. And we're just going to be going clockwise from the major nodes that we picked, and I'll see if I can do my best to explain why. First, in the Warmonger tree, we have Manic Slaughter. So we have 2% damage per 100 unconsumed rage points. So as you know, with our build, Tracker's Reach doesn't cost rage. Our Leap gains rage, and our Shout gains rage. The only 2 things that are costing us rage is Wailing Arrows and our Juggernaut. But when we Wailing Arrow, we can easily Leap and Shout to gain our rage back to maximum. And then once we get to maximum rage, when we use our Juggernaut, we have to cast it twice. So once we cast it twice, we're going to be down to 1368 rage. Now, this is perfectly optimized in a perfect world. You're going to be doing this all the time. But sometimes you're in the heat of the moment. You forget to gain your rage to full. But if you're really maximizing this effectively, you can do, it's at 2% per 100, so about 26-ish, 27% more damage just off of that passive right there. So that's good to have. And we did put points into just the extra generation on kill. We did put points into Feast for the Crows. So basically when you use your Juggernaut, explode, whatever damage you did take, you're going to be gaining it all right back when you kill all the enemies. So you pretty much heal to full when you use your ability. This is why you have some global life leech with this talent or node. Next in the Warmonger tree, we have Bestial Frenzy. So 4% damage, and we spec into 5% damage for each nearby enemy. Again, since you're pulling all these enemies in, you can gain a lot of damage from just having all those enemies around you, stunning them, and then using your Juggernaut. Alright, moving along to the Soldier tree, we have the wild card for that extra % crit. I believe 60% crit chance core gives like 8% crit. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's around that. So that's good to have since we're going crit and crit hit damage. And then and again in the Soldier tree, we have Second Wind, just in case we do mess up our build and we take a bunch of damage really fast. This is going to help you survive a little bit. By when we hit under 30%, we're going to get a bunch of health regeneration right off the bat. Moving into the assassin tree, we have merciless lethality. Again, as you all know, they nerfed this by 40%. I still feel like it's good, even with the nerf. We do 30% less normal damage, but we gain 60 percent critical hit damage. So hopefully, as we're stacking crit, this is going to be more important. The crit hit damage is going to be better than losing the damage if it weighs more towards the damage, if that makes sense. That's why we picked merciless lethality. And then moving into assassin tree again, we have clandestine execution for those 1v1 battles against the end boss or the champion that you cleared all the waves and the mobs around it, and you're just 1v1ing it because it has tough and things like that. So we get an extra 25% damage from that, which we would probably lose from Bestial Frenzy since we don't have all these other enemies around us. And then moving to the Arms Maester, we did pick Virtual Stance again. One of my favorite passive points. It does work for Juggernaut. The highest I think we can hit, I think I've hit up to 20 to 25 million with this proccing. But we do spec into it for a 15% chance to do double damage. We do lose 25% all resistance, but you'll see in the Praetorian tree, we're going to cancel that effect out pretty much. And then one of the most important passes to get is why we're doing all the stasis damage, is in the Time Weaver tree, which time cannot heal. So basically, when you hit enemies afflicted with stasis, they take 100% of the hit damage, again, after a 1.5 second delay. So when I use my Juggernaut, they take the damage. 1.5 seconds later, they take 120% damage if you spec fully into it. And we're doing millions of damage with our shield, our Juggernaut. So 1.5 seconds later, they're going to take another millions of damage after that. So really good to have. This is probably, again, one of the most important passes to have in the build. Now moving to the Praetorian tree, we did pick up things like Blessed Mana and Selfless Courage to gain a little bit more all resistance. Again, we lose 25% all resistance from Arms Maester, but we're going to be getting it back and canceling out from Selfless Courage, and then get another 40% when we get health globes and things like that. We did go into Sacred Oath to apply weakness, but just more so to get the extra block chance. You kind of want to have 100 block chance again, so you're negating as much damage as you can. But if you don't get 100% block chance with your passives, you can go into gems, which I'll show you in a second. But Kingless Aegis and Unorthodox Technique for more block chance. And then we're moving into the Child of Fury for Furious Appetite and Frenzied Blows. So when we're above 750 rage, we deal double damage, and we're always going to be above 750 rage since we're only using 2 abilities and we have all these abilities to gain our rage back. So we're going to be maximizing this 100% of the time. So really good to have. And then we moved into the Warlock tree to get the more rage and willpower. Just again to have that little bit more buffer to be over 750 rage. And then we are trying to go into Siegebreaker to get Salvatory Anchor and Elevated Gain to increase that all resistance chance, or the all resistance on our gear, but that's pretty much for the passives. Again, we're only level 80, so I'll probably finish it off with Salvatory Anchor. I may go into Immortal Offering, but then I have to mess with my build to do all these other different ailments and things like that, and I don't like messing with that stuff. So I'm not sure. After Siegebreaker, maybe you guys have an idea of where to go. Maybe we can go into where is it at? Right here. We can go into the Exorcist tree to gain % damage off of Headhunter, or more tankiness from Branded Burst. So I might go into that as well. But that's where we're at for passives. So now we're going to go into attributes and itemization. Okay, so with attributes, we pretty much put all our points into toughness because we want as much health and force shield as we can get. Since with our gear, right now we're going more ferocity, crit hit damage and crit chance and % damage and things like that. So we're trying to gain as much toughness as we can with our attribute points. I'll show off my stats. Weapon damage doesn't really matter for this build because we're going to be spamming Juggernaut. We have 121k HP, which I believe is super low. Again, hopefully when we get luckier, we get a little bit more tankier. With our crit chance, we have 61% crit with our buffs, so it's a good amount of crit chance, and we have 377% crit hit damage, which is a lot. So again, going towards that to do those huge numbers of damage when we crit. Other than that, we have 100% block chance and 26% block efficiency. Block chance doesn't completely negate damage. It blocks the piece of damage, and then block efficiency depends on how much damage you reduce. I believe that's how it works. So once you get 100% block chance, try to go into more block efficiency. But having 100% block chance is really good. And our resistances, again, aren't too great. I'm sure you guys know of a better, tankier build to go. Let me know if you do. But right now, I'm focused on crit and crit hit damage. Our ailment chance is really low, but that's why we have Wailing Arrows and our Tracker's Reach to spam to inflict that stasis effect, so we can get that damage from the passive and do even more damage. And the cool thing about that is when you use Mark of Impurity, when they explode, that explosion damage ticks off with the stasis damage. So I believe if we have a group, like a huge pack, one thing explodes, it hits him, it does the stasis damage 1.5 seconds later. Another thing explodes, hits the other guy with the stasis, so it just chains. And you'll see once we get into huge packs, you'll see just lots of numbers just flash on the screen because of that. So it's a really good combo, if I didn't mention that before. But itemization, again, I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. But the 3 important must-haves for this build are cooldown reduction on your helm, chest, and leg pieces. So these are the only 3 pieces of gear I believe that can have cooldown reduction, and I think they can go up to 40%. Right now, I think I have 140 something percent cooldown reduction. I think the maximum you can have is, in a perfect world, 150%. So that's why I think we can get Juggernaut down to 7 seconds. But cooldown reduction, most important stat in your items. Other than that, try to go percent damage. I heard material damage works with Juggernaut. Not 100% sure, but if you want to be safe, just go straight up percent damage, crit chance, crit hit damage, ferocity. You can have resistances here and there. Like for these items, I just have extra health regeneration, rage cost decrease, material damage, and things like that. But again, try to focus on crit chance, crit hit damage, percent damage, and ferocity. For everything else, for the shield, we have a really good shield here. We have 50% block chance, which is really good, really helps. Percent damage, force shield toughness, and material resistance score. So I think this is like the best case scenario for a shield. So try to get a shield like this. For the weapon, again, weapon damage doesn't matter. You can roll crit and crit hit damage on a weapon, so try to roll that. Maybe some ailment chance, and things like that. But it's really, I don't think I explained this. I was going to go into this. It's really important to have physical and ailment, or physical and aether on your weapon. Because having that aether damage on your weapon is going to allow our abilities to do stasis, to do the stasis ailment. So, let's see. I have a gun with physical and fire. If I were to equip this physical fire gun, now our abilities will be doing burn damage. So make sure you have an aether weapon on so you can inflict that stasis and benefit from that passive. So really important to have. So that's pretty much it with itemization. For gems, for the weapons, I'm going straight crit hit damage since weapon damage doesn't matter. I do have 25% duration to stun on inflicted enemies, just to help us out with the shout, our leaps, and the Tracker's Reach. I would go crit hit damage, but I didn't roll 3 offensive ones yet. When I do, I'll go ahead and change that to crit hit damage, but we have that in there for now. For our accessories and belt, we're just straight going crit hit chance on for the gems. Oh, I didn't go over the accessories, I'm sorry. For accessories, for amulets, crit chance, crit damage, best case scenario. Percent damage if you can. Some sort of all attributes to the white stat. For the rings, try to go crit hit damage. I believe there's crit hit chance as well, but try to go that for the white attributes. Everything else, percent damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage. Same thing for belt. We have 30% attack damage. I'm not sure if we're benefiting off of that, so I probably would want to go into like crit or crit hit damage for the belt as well. But other than that, that's the stats that you want to go for this build. My variation of the build, I know some people are going to be like, wouldn't it better go force shield? Wouldn't it better just be tanky? Maybe, but I like crit and crit hit damage. That's why we're going this kind of build and this variation of the build. And as you're going to see, it's going to be pretty effective at 187. And we're going to be able to clear it. So I guess that's what we'll do next. We'll go ahead and head into a 187 expedition to show off the build a little bit. Okay, we'll go ahead and enter a 187 just to show you guys how the build works. I could do like showing off lower levels, but if you guys see it works at 187, then I'm sure you guys know it's going to work at lower levels. But basically what we do is just set up our Juggernaut. So we want to mark a few things here, and then when our Juggernaut is ready, we're going to go and leap in, shout, pull him in, and then explode. I don't think we had all our we let our marks drop off. That's why we fucked up right there. But let's see if we can do this more optimally. And again, I'm so sorry. I'm not really too good at playing and talking at the same time. So I'll try my best to not mess up this build too much. So we had 3 marks up, and they all exploded. So basically, we have 7.7 seconds to set up our next Juggernaut burst. So we want to set up with our marks, leaping in, applying that stasis with our pull and everything. And once you think you're ready, we're going to go ahead and stun them and burst. Again, we just keep doing it. Pull. We can pull these snakes in. Spam this shit. Stun and then explode. Let's go this way. So, and all you gotta do is rinse, repeat. We can use wailing arrows if we wanted. I typically save wailing arrows for like boss fights because we can't pull the boss in and things like that. So we need something to apply the stasis, and wailing arrows I think is pretty effective because we're doing constant damage and increases our chance to apply that ailment. So we did drop a little bit low right there, but that's fine. We're gonna get all our HP back when we do our damage. So we'll set up, we'll go ahead and mark these blue things, mark some other things, pull them all in. We messed up. Stun them and then explode. So I messed up right there. I stood in that shit way too long, and we're not as tanky, so we gotta make sure to get out. But you see, once we set up our build, we could pretty much destroy packs like that pretty fast. So I apologize about that. Again, I need to get better at talking and playing at the same time. A couple marks here. I think they destroyed my shield before I can get it off. So that's another thing you have to look out for. So shout and try to spam that shield as fast as possible. Again, we'll do this. We'll shout. Let's get out of there. I don't want to die. We're not set up yet. Okay, now we'll go in, pull them all in. Shout, maybe one more. And watch everything explode. These things are pretty annoying because they can't be affected by marks of impurity and things like that. So it's probably going to take you a little bit to take care of them with this build. Hopefully right here they die. Okay, so we got another pack there. Let's go ahead and clear this one real quick. A few marks there. Pull them in, shout. Pull them in one more time for the stasis. Then destroy them. And then who do we have here? Okay, we have some, like these can be affected by pull. So what we're gonna do, again, we're gonna set up, we're gonna mark a few things here. Probably not gonna kill them all in one go here. Oh, we did, sweet. I'm sorry I jumped away, I didn't want to die, but pretty much with the explosions from the Mark of Impurity and the stasis passive, they're constantly taking damage, and with each thing exploding, they're taking even more damage, and it's kind of a chain effect. So you kind of see how it goes down. But let's keep going here. And this isn't like the fastest build in the world, but it's effective, it's fun, it's satisfying when you just fucking watch this and watch them all explode. And it's a fun setup build, and I always like setup builds. And again, with the trial, this build will probably be 10 times better, but you can see it's still effective without it. Take that. Again, set up. Leap. Okay, move on and try your best to keep all the buffs up. I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I'm not sure, I haven't been paying attention to them. But, I think they destroyed my shield, but those things died because they were close to each other. Boom. And you guys get it. I think I'm just going to go to the end, just so you guys can see the end boss. It's a little bit slower than I'd like, but once we optimize our gear and things like that, I think we're going to be doing just fine. And this is 187, so this is not the hardest of the hardest, but it's a good place to be when you're trying to farm gear, to really push towards the untainted stuff and things like that. I haven't really tried an untainted yet, I don't think. But hopefully we'll be able to take care of that soon. I think they destroyed my shield there as well, or I didn't set up well enough. So stun them. I don't think I have... Yeah, I'm not setting up too well, but Lamar, you'll see. I think that was 8 million non-crits that they were getting hit with. Oh shit, we didn't finish killing everything, so let's go back. I hate this. I get lost all the time. So we'll have to run back. I'll probably just edit this out. Okay, so we killed everything. We're at the end boss. Let's see what we're dealing with here. 83 million HP, fast, material shield, unstoppable, toxic missiles, elemental shield. Not too annoying, but let's see if we can apply the stasis fast. And what was that, 6 million? And all we gotta do, this is pretty much it. We just run around, apply stasis, dodging the enemy as best as we can, and then when we're ready, mark them up and go in for the damage. We could shout as well if we wanted. Be careful for that. Didn't affect by stasis, that's fine. 8 million. Make sure to dodge that because that hurts. And you get stunned. And he's unstoppable, so we can't really stun him. 18 million, not bad. Get our rage back. We probably should be leaping a little bit more as well. And if your stasis isn't applied by the time your Juggernaut is up, don't worry about it. I mean, you want to keep spamming your Juggernaut as much as you can. You don't really want to wait. 9.4 million. No crit, but we had the stasis effect on him, so he got hit with another 2-point-something million. So, kind of like a crit. But let's see if we get him here. Nope, not yet. Again, about 5 million from the stasis proc, and we should be able to get him down in one more. Hopefully we get a juicy crit. And this is why it's risky to build crit and crit damage, because you might not be doing as much damage as you could be. There we go, 9.2 million. Not bad. Again, still fine-tuning the build. We have a lot of gear to upgrade. As you see, 109s and things like that. But once we start getting this build a little bit stronger and the gear a little bit stronger, you're going to be seeing a lot more damage. You're going to be able to be a lot more tanky. And the damage is there. You just, the survivability we got to get better with. But other than that, hopefully you guys like this build. Again, this carried me from 151 to 187. So hopefully you guys can make use of this build. And please fine tune it. I know this is the scuffed version of the build. But again, Cooldown Juggernaut, super fun, super strong. Able to do a lot of damage, clear packs pretty easily. And you can have no problem with end bosses as long as you're patient enough. But let me know what you guys think of the build. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.